In the previous lesson, we introduced loops and we used the range function to control how many times a for loop runs. Okay, so we've only seen the range function at work partially. In this lesson, we'll explore the range function in detail and learn how it helps us create loops with different patterns. Just as you already know, the range function is a built-in Python function that generates a sequence of numbers. It's often used with the for loop to specify how many times the loop should run or to define the numbers the loop iterates over. The syntax for the range function goes like this. There are three different ways you can define your range function, meaning the range function can take three different inputs. The first scenario is providing only one input to the range function. Whenever you provide only one input to the range function, that one input is taken as the stop point. The second scenario is providing two inputs for the range function. The first input will stand for the start point and the second input will stand for the stop point minus 1. As you already know, the stop point is not usually included in the generated sequence. Alright, so the third form of the range function is providing three inputs. The first input stands for start, the second input stands for stop point, and the third input stands for step. The step is the amount of increment between each number in the generated sequence. Let's see the first scenario in action, where you only provide one input, which will stand for the stop point. Okay, so in our previous example, we provided two inputs, so let's change it to 1. Okay, so whenever you provide one input, it's going to stand for the stop point, and then the start point is going to default to 0. So let's run this and see what we have. Okay, so you see now that the start point is defaulting to 0. Okay, so the range function is going to start generating the sequence from 0, and then it goes up to the stop point that was provided. As you already know, the stop point is not usually inclusive. So if you provide 11, you're going to stop at 10. If you provide 10, you're going to stop at 9. Let me run that again. Then you are going to see. If you provide 100, you are going to stop at 99. Okay, so you see, and it's going to start from 0. If you provide 101, it's going to stop at 100. Okay, if you provide 10,000, it's going to stop at 9,999. That's the first scenario. If you provide just one input to the range function, the one input you provided is going to stand for the stop point, and then the start point is going to default to 0. The second scenario is specifying the start value. So whenever you provide two values, the first input is going to stand for the start point, okay, and the second input is going to stand for the stop point. Okay, so if I provided 1 now, you know by default the start point is 0. Okay, so if I provided 1 now, that means the start point is going to be 1. Okay, so if I go back to the start, you are going to see that 1 is the start point. If I provide the start point to be 500, that means my count is going to start from 500 and it's going to stop at 1000. Okay, so if you scroll up now, you see that the start point is 500. Now, the third scenario is providing three inputs to your range function. Whenever you provide three inputs to your range function, the third input is going to stand for the increment. We call it step. The step is the number of increment, the amount of increment you'll be given to each sequence. So if I run this now, you know, normally we have 500. By default, we have 1 as the step. So you have 500, we have 501, 502, 503. Okay, so if I run this now, that means the increment is going to be 2. If I go back to the start now, you see that we have 500. Normally by default, it's supposed to be 501. But because the step is 2, that means it's going to increase by 2. So we have 502, 504, 506, 508. If I make the increment to be 5, okay, so that means we are going to have 500, 505, 510, 515, 520, 525. If I want to create a countdown, so possibly I want to start from a larger number to a lesser number. Let me say I want to start from 500. I want to go back to 1. So I'm going to provide a negative step. Okay, if I provide negative 5 as the step now, That means the range is going to start at 500 and then it goes down. Okay, so you are going to say 500, 495, 490 because the step provided is a negative number. We can have a practical application of the range function by creating a multiplication table. Let's say we want to create a multiplication table too. Okay, so let's say we can print, let's print a message. So we're going to say multiplication table 2. Okay, it's table 2. Right, so to create that, we're going to start from 1. Want our table to start from 1. Then we are going to stop. Let's say we want our table to stop at 10. So our stop point is going to be 11. Okay. So we are going to print. Let's have an F string here. So we are going to say, we have for number in range. So we are going to say, we have a curly braces here. So we are going to say number. So it's going to be whatever our number is multiplied by, okay, this is num, not number. This is num we have here. So we have for num. So we have num. We are going to use X to symbolize our multiplication symbol. So we say num times, okay, so we are going to, since we want to create multiplication table 2, so we are going to just have 2 here as a string. Okay, so it's not going to be a variable. Say num times 2, it's going to be what we have equal to a curly braces here. So this is where we are going to perform our multiplication operation. So we are going to say num times 2. Okay, so what we are printing now is num. At the start of the sequence, we are going to have 1. We are going to have 1 times 2. So here we are going to have 1 times 2. That's going to be 2. The next item is going to be 2. So we are going to have 2 times 2. So it's going to be 4. If I print this now, let me run this. Okay, so you see what we have. We have multiplication table 2. Okay, so we have 1 times 2, we have 2. 2 times 2, we have 4. 3 times 2, we have 6. 4 times 2, we have 8. It goes on and on like that. Even if we want to create it up to 200, so we are going to say, this is going to be 201. So if we run this now, we are going to have multiplication table 2 up to 200. Okay, right, and we can as well create multiplication table 5, whatever table we want to create. So we are going to change this to 5. This is going to be 5, and then we are going to change this to 5, and then we're also going to change this to 5. All right, so if we run this now, we're going to have multiplication table 5. Okay, and we have 1 times 5 is equal to 5, 2 times 5 is equal to 10, and it goes on and on like that up to 500. We have up to 200. We have 200 times 5 to be equal to 1000. We can also generate a pattern from this using string repetition. Let's say we want to generate something like let's say a triangle, something that resembles a triangle. So we are going to say for, okay, we say I in range. Okay, so our range is going to start from, let's say 1, and then we are going to stop at 11. You can stop at any number you like. Your stop point is going to determine how long your pattern is. So we are going to print, okay, so we are going to print, what we want to print is a string of star. And then we're going to multiply it by, we're going to multiply it by, multiply by or I. Okay, so initially our I is going to be 1, so we are going to print only 1 star. The next iteration, I is going to be 2, so we are going to multiply asterisk, string asterisk by 2. So we have 2 asterisks printed. If we run this now, so you see what we have. We printed the pattern. So we have 1 asterisk, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 10. Okay, so the range function can be used in diverse ways depending on the problem that you want to solve at hand. The next lesson, we are going to be talking about nested loops. So I'll be seeing you in the next lesson.